Hey everyone. For those of you in the States, happy 4th of July. I thought it apt that we go over Superman #1 from June 1939. Now, from what I understand, I did some research on this before I dove into it, and God, do I wish this was an original copy. This is one of those reprints, the facsimile editions, which thankfully has all the ads and whatnot. And aside from this, I think the closest I'll ever get to owning an actual legit Superman #1 was a book that came out, and I think it was 79, somewhere around there. But this famous first editions from what was this company, Whitman Comics, where they did a bunch of oversized reprints of comics. And yeah, there was a coworker at the time that I bought this off of, and I kind of wish that I would have grabbed his Superman versus Muhammad Ali, but it is what it is. I at least got Superman #1. And now that we're kind of looking at a more closer version to #1, you can see how the 10 cents is here. It's not on here. And even on the original cover, there was no #1 and not inside either. So the picture here, from what I understand, was a reprint of Action Comics #10. And then the artist came in and gave us that traditional dressing here, the complete story of the daring exploits of the one and only Superman. So yeah, I'm glad that my coworker was willing to sell this to me. I wish I could have got it for $3 back in the day, but yeah, I paid a little bit more. But nonetheless, I'm happy to have this. I have not taken this out since I bought it. And yeah, I needed some help. Thankfully, where I was at the time, they showed me how when a comic is in pretty banged up condition, like bent pages and whatnot, how to properly put it in a plastic so that the pages wouldn't get bent further. So yeah, this is just sat, and I never intend to open this. It's just one of those beautiful pieces that I eventually want to put up on my comic book wall. But yeah, not taking that bad boy out. We will be going over this reprint, so I can at least say that I have a reader's copy, and yeah, happy to have it. Diving in. And all those good ads from back in the day. Stuff that you would never see in ads anymore. Ah, nostalgia. Anyway, that said, what's important is with this book, when you open it up, it expounds on Superman's origins. Like, they kind of went over it in Action Comics #1, but they just said that a planet that was dying of old age. Here, and of course, Superman was created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. Just before the doomed planet Krypton exploded to fragments, a scientist placed his infant son within an experimental rocket ship, launching it toward Earth. When the vessel reached our planet, the child was found by an elderly couple, the Kents. "Look, Mary, it's a child." "The poor thing, it's been abandoned." And now, from what I understand, is Pa Kent's name has not been revealed yet, but here we see that the name was Mary. The infant was turned over to an orphan asylum where it astounded the attendants with his feats of strength. We couldn't get that sweet child out of our mind. We've come to adopt him if you'll permit us. I believe it can be arranged. Whew, thank goodness they're taking him away before he wrecks the asylum. And so this is where we find out that the Kents know that there's something special about the boy. He goes, "Now listen to me, Clark. This great strength of yours, you've got to hide it from people, or they'll be scared of you. But when the proper time comes, you must use it to assist humanity." And we can see how that's sweet and endearing. The one thing that I will say, and I don't really like to talk about movies and TV shows because it just kind of becomes what everyone always constantly talks about. I like to try to focus on the books. But I didn't mind Kevin Costner as Pa Kent, but that whole thing where he just willingly kills himself due to the tornado when Clark could have got him in the blur speed. That's the only thing I hated about that. But anyway, we kind of go into talk about how he can jump an eighth of a mile, how nothing short of a bursting shell could penetrate his skin and run faster than a locomotive. And here you can tell this is the golden age, because right here, the passing away of his foster parents greatly grieved Clark Kent, but it strengthened the determination that had been growing in his mind. Clark decided that he must turn his titanic strength into channels that would benefit mankind. And so was created Superman, champion of the oppressed, the physical marvel who had sworn to devote his existence to helping those in need. And I can't help but, when I was reading that part, the Max Fleischer, where it would go, up in the sky, it's a bird, it's a plane. And it's Superman. Dun, 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 dun. And you just hear that going on. But anyway, moving on. And you can also tell this is the Golden Age, basically making this Earth 2 because it says outer waiting room of the Daily Star. And this is where Clark is trying to get a job as a reporter. Turns him down saying, you don't have any skills, so I can't hire you. So Superman says that he is going to get that job and basically show that he's apt reporter. So he listens in, talking about there's a mob attacking a county jail. Superman's like, here's hoping I get there in time. And is able to stop a lynch mob from pulling this villain out of jail, saying that, where is it? The prisoner's fate will be decided in a court of justice. Return to your home. And because Superman spared this villain's life, he gives him a hot scoop on the story, which enables him to start working at the Daily Star. Now here, this is where they expound on Action Comics #1, where Superman finds out the lady, what was her name? B. Carroll, singer at the Hillow nightclub. She rubbed out this man, two-timing her, then framed Evelyn. And so Superman goes to see her sing. Then Superman approaches her in her dressing room saying that, you're wasting your time. I'm only interested in seeing what's coming to you. Yeah, I killed Jack Kennedy, and he deserved it, but you'll never tell anyone. You're not going to leave this room alive. You little vixen. Oh, the Golden Age. So Superman finally forces her into confession, and then this is where they reprint Action Comics #1, and you can see the whole tonal change from the artwork here to the very first appearance of Comic Superman, where he was very darkly sketched to recolor what they initially had in store, which we've already gone over this comic, so I'm not going to go back over Action Comics #1. If you want to, I'll make sure to leave a card up here where you guys can watch the review that we went over Action Comics #1. So I'm glad that they seamlessly added more to this story. Just a really cool way to expound on what brought us really the world's first superhero. And not like hero, because I know a lot of people say like, well, the Phantom predates him, and I think the Shadow too, but those were just like Batman-esque heroes. So you can kind of say the superheroes, but I mean like superheroes, like Dr. Manhattan level superheroes. So in a sense, that's when we got the dawn of, how did they say that in Watchmen? The dawn of the Superman or whatever. But yeah, there you go. And then we jive on. Oh my goodness, I can tell I've been reading a lot of Silver Age and Golden Age books. But the follow-up story in Action Comics #1, where there's a guy that's a munitions expert, we jump into Action Comics #2. So we finally get to follow up on what happens where Superman's jumping with this guy to get information out of him. He's like, I missed, got it. And it says, check out the next, issue of Action Comics. And so we see that they make it. As they strike the sidewalk, it bursts into fragments. Say, wasn't that fun? Let's do it again. No, I'll talk. The man behind the threatening war is Emil Norville, the munitions magnet. Yeah, you'll find him at his Lexington Park estates. And so this basically reads like a crime novel from this time period, because up to this point, DC Comics was called Detective Comics. And so a lot of their stories were detective-based. And that's why I like how Batman kind of put a spin on that and very made it dark and noir, and why people fell in love with Superman. But in this story, what I like is the fact that Superman basically gives Norville the ultimatum of leaving the States or he's going to turn him in. And so they go to this war-torn country. And Superman basically enrolls this dude into the army, and Superman joins him. Bombs fly overhead, and he goes, this is no place for a sane man. I'll die. I see. When it's your own life at stake, your viewpoint changes. So, yes, comics have always had political or socio-economical subtexts in it, but it's never felt preachy. It would, like, in its own way, the writers would kind of give their viewpoint of how things could be better. And because Norville gets stuck in this war, like Superman basically bails on him and leaves him on it, he renounces his ways and he goes, the most dangerous thing that I'm going to manufacture now is firecrackers. And Superman basically busts through the lines and gets generals from both sides. And he goes, why are you battling anyway? I don't know. Can you tell me? No. Can you? Gentlemen, it's obvious you've been fighting only for the promotion to promote the sales of munitions. Why not shake hands and make up? And see, at the time, great way, especially 30s, 40s, World War II was heating up. Good stuff all around. And then this one, again, this is Action Comics 3. It explains the scientific explanation of Superman's amazing strength. Superman came to Earth from the planet Krypton, whose inhabitants had evolved after millions of years to physical perfection. The smaller size of our planet, with its slightly slighter gravity pull, assessed Superman's tremendous muscles and the performance of miraculous feats of strength. Even upon our world today exist creatures possessing super strength. The lowly ant can support weights 100 times its own. The grasshopper leaps what to man would be the space of several city blocks. It's not too far-fetched to predict that someday our very own planet may be peopled entirely by supermen. And I've said this before, I like that back in the day, even though it may be a blip here or there, they at least give you some sort of something to learn, scientific or engineering-wise, and it adds to the depth of the story, thinking that, yeah, that could happen. And of course, Superman can't fly, he can only run or leap really fast. And this story kind of focuses on miners that get stuck underground, and he saves one of the miners, and he goes, "My name is Kent. I represent a powerful newspaper. Tell me, in your opinion, could the mine tragedy have been prevented?" "Sure. Months ago, we knew the mine was unsafe, but when we tell bosses, foremen, they say, 'No like job? Quit.'" And so Superman pretends to, or, he goes to prowl on the big man's, estate. Gets caught, brought to the boss. He goes, "What's the meaning of this interruption? We caught this bohunk, probably a sneak thief, window peeping. Shall we take him to the station and rough him up?" He goes, "What do you have to say for yourself?" And so I like how he gets this, not Mr. Rogers, but Dick Van Dyke look on his face, trying to pretend to be someone else. And he goes, "Beautiful ladies, much music, rich party. I read of these things. Tonight I want to see them with my own eyes. Just a sap. Give him a beating he'll never forget, and then turn him loose." And so they go to beat him, and he goes, "Wait, I've changed my mind. Gather around, folks. Here's where the party starts to liven up." And he basically says, "Let's let this man bring us into the mines, and we'll just see how the other half lives." And so everyone's like, "Yeah, party!" And this sort of reminds me of My Bloody Valentine, where the holiday partiers are going down in the mine, except no one gets slaughtered. But of course, Superman puts people in harm's way, which is very much a far cry from the Superman that we know. But he's basically faking sticking them in the mine. And they're like, "Oh God, what are we going to do? What are we going to do?" And the guy's like, "Oh, don't worry. There's an emergency way. I could just push this, the safety devices. Here it is. Why didn't I think of them sooner? We're as good as saved right now." He goes, "I just got to pull this signal lever." He goes, "What the? It doesn't work." And I just love how Superman just, like other safety devices in the mine, rusty and no good. And so I love how Superman basically says, "I'm content to die. If you want to live, dig." And again, it goes back to just a nice little way to show how things were happening in the world and trying to fight against it in their own way of using their art. And not in a preaching way, in an entertaining, storytelling way. Same with this one from Action Comics number 4. This one's about drunk driving. Pedestrian is like a hit and run. But it's sort of weird because we get that, and then all of a sudden we see this Superman basically saves this guy from the train tracks, which was the drunk driver, but ends up dying, so kind of gets what he deserves. But then he finds out that this university coach wants to take out players on the other side, so he's going to hire these goons to play on his football team. Superman finds a gentleman who's kind of this lousy Larry of the team, chloroforms him, and takes his place on the team just to infiltrate. And Superman tries to tell the people, he tries to tell the other coach, he goes, "If you don't, resign, then I'm going to tell everyone what happened after the game." And one thing about this Golden Age, Silver Age artwork, it has its charm, but I hate how everyone has that that oldies look about him, like the Dennis the Menace, Dick Tracy comics. So you have to kind of just roll with it. And I'm glad that the artwork has evolved, but you can see the charm of the time and how it was starting to evolve to be more serious. And so Superman, basically chloroforming this guy and taking his place on the team, runs through everybody. And this sort of, I wonder when they did the, oh hell, what was that that graphic novel series that came out? What was it, Superman Earth 1 or whatever, where they show Clark growing up and he was like the star football team. I wonder if this is where they drew inspiration for that. But again, shows how the corruption of the world, but yet in an entertaining and fun way. And then at the end, there's like this, almost feels like you're reading a radio series script. And so I looked it up and they said the untitled text script here, which I'm not going to be honest, I did not want to read through all this. But it is basically a reprint or something from Ask Superman in the 40s. So if you all know exactly if this was like a script for the radio series or whatnot, let me know down in the comments. I have no idea. I didn't want to read through all that. That was just too much reading by the end of this. But yeah, if you guys can get your hands on this reprint, definitely get a hold of it, because in our lifetimes, Detective Comics 27, Batman #1, Superman #1, Action Comics #1, and whatever issue, I forget, the All-Star, where Wonder Woman first showed up on the end of the page, those books, I don't know if any of us would ever be able to get those unless we get lucky and find them at a garage sale or someone's attic, which that's very few and far between dream nowadays. But if you guys have enjoyed what you've seen, if you got the deep pockets, please first and foremost support your local comic shop and see if they have an OG copy, or wherever it is you like to get your action figures and comic books. Or if not, grab this reprint. Or if you get lucky, maybe see if anybody may have this famous first editions, because, yeah, this thing looks beautiful whenever I display it. And I'm happy to at least have this close enough to the original, because it came out in 39, this came out in 78, so there wasn't that far of a difference. But now, yeah, it's got some time on it. And if you've enjoyed this review, really would appreciate if you take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Helps the club channel more than you could possibly know. And if you wouldn't mind hitting that fancy little Kryptonian bell next subscribe, that way as I continue to upload content, you guys get notified. Come to the channel. I love talking with y'all and hearing your thoughts and feedback down in the comments below, or the socials, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description. So with all that said, hope y'all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, everyone.